evening! It's Joe from Joe's Computer Museum. Checking real quick to make sure you can all hear me okay. So, what are we doing tonight? So, tonight I have BlueSCSIs to build because I put a whole bunch on my website and they sold out. So, I need to build a whole bunch. So, I figured I would use this time to, I don't know, build them on stream and give everybody a step-by-step video tutorial about how to do it. Sure, why not? Let's do that. Before we get started, silly little housekeeping things. Again, thank you all for stopping by. All 7 of you who are in the chat right now, thank you very much. Promotional things. Yes, I have a website, jcm-1.com. Again, jcm-1.com. That you can go to and order things like the BlueSCSI or my universal keyboard encoders for the Apple II or nifty t-shirts or whatever you want. I got a lot of cool stuff on there. The proceeds from those help fund my operation so I can keep doing this hobby and keep bringing cool, interesting, neat retro stuff to you guys. Also, I have a Patreon. That is patreon.com/Joe's Computer Museum. My Patreon is a place where you can throw a couple dollars in the cup every month. And again, those funds help go towards my operation here so that I don't lose money playing around with old computers. Basically is what that does. It helps free up my personal finances as well so that I can actually spend time or spend money on cool tools, interesting software, things like that I can use to do things like reverse engineer boards for old computers that I can then release to the public so people can have old stuff to play with. So that is also a thing you can do to support me. You can also do the super chat thing in the YubTubs as well if you like. People are asking a whole bunch of questions. Derek is asking, what is my first PC? My first PC, well, it depends on if you mean by personal computer in the general sense or PC as an IBM compatible. My first computer in the general sense would be a Radio Shack Tandy, whatever you want to call it, a TRS-80 Model 1, Level 1. I have a video about, a couple different videos back in the past about that. If you go search my channel, you can find them. Other questions. Do I have an OnlyFans? Michael's Workshop? No. That you know about. Anyway, Adam G just retweeted your stream. Thank you. So let's go through and say hi to everybody. We got Retro Fox, 50 Shades of Beige. I still love your rename, sir. 50 Shades of Beige is great. Sad Mac is here. Michael's Workshop. Adam McG. We've got Joe Williams. Hey, Joe. S. Shrek. Yay. Rudy is here. Rudy, my 8-bit partner in crime from the Retro Repair Roundup. We just had an episode last night. If you haven't checked that, go check that out after this stream. Please stay and watch my stream. Starbuck Tech is here. Yeah. So I also want to thank my patrons. My current top tier patrons, if I can get my list to actually show in a way that I can read it. My top tier patrons are folks like Justin D. Morgan, Stavros Karatsaritis, 50 Shades of Beige himself, Britt Dodd, Greg K Mods, Peter T. Hani. He's been one of my longest patrons forever. He makes some really, really cool programming tools for old 8-bit computers, so look him up. Biggie John, Nate Spencer, Adam McGowie, Chris Torrance, Christoph Muster, and a whole bunch of others. Eric Helgeson, Javier Rivera, Retroviter, Zodium or Exodium, whichever way they prefer to have that pronounced. So Ron's Computer Videos. Lots of cool people decided to support me to help me continue to fund the museum operation here to keep things going. Now, all that silly stuff out of the way. Jacob Warner, hello. Let's get to work. So again, tonight we're going to build some BlueSCSIs. Again, because I have a whole bunch that people ordered because those things are incredibly popular. I figured, we need some Macintosh content. I've been behind the scenes just doing catch-up work and board redesigns and projects for folks and a lot of stuff. And I haven't been participating that much in Macintosh. So I figured, let's just live stream something I got to do anyway, and we'll get it done. So let us switch views real quick if I can click the buttons to do that. I think, do we want that view? We kind of sort of want that view. sort of, with the weird stripy lines on the screen there. It's yeah, we'll live with that. We'll go with that. So we've got bench stuff to do. So here's what we're gonna do. I have this box of stuff. This is my BlueSCSI build box. This has the majority of the smaller components that I use to build BlueSCSIs. So we're going to go through all these things, and we're going to put together a desktop BlueSCSI and a DB25 or external BlueSCSI as well. So we'll do one of each. And so we're going to build that, and you guys can watch along and see how I do that to get an idea of how long it takes to build them. So if you're ever curious, why does Joe take so long to send those out? Because they take a very definite, well-defined, non-zero amount of time to build. And also, you can use that as, I don't know what you want to call it. You can use that as an instructional video to see how to build them yourselves. Now, I am going to see if I can adjust this video here. It looks like it's being shot through like a lagoon. Stand by. That would be this one. I need to click this. And it is not an auto, the white balance is, but we need to like knock that up just a little bit. Just a little bit, not too much. Knock that up a little bit. White balance is a little wacky. Yeah. There we go. That looks a little better. Cool. So let's get to building. So the first things first. First one I'm going to build is going to be the desktop BlueSCSI. So the desktop BlueSCSI is basically takes the blue pill, the socket, and all of the different components, and it takes a 50-pin header so that you can plug a 50-pin SCSI-1 cable into that. The first thing when you're going to be building one of these, or just about any small electronics project, is to assemble the lowest things first. So in this case, it's going to be the SD card socket. So we're going to do that first. Now we will do that over here. You see the light over here. We are going to do that on the scope camera, so you guys can see really close how I actually execute that. After you put that in, then you put in some of these other, like the diodes here. The diodes go next. Then the resistor packs go next. Then you would put in the blue pill and the 50-pin connector. That's generally how I do that. So we're going to get to it. So let's do it. So let's switch cameras over to SCSI. Yeah. Oh, hold on. Wow, that was an avalanche. Ignore that. Okay, have I been working your hinds off doing catch-up work? Yes. Yes, Michael's Workshop. Yes, I have. So let's get Zoomadoobed in there. I need to change this a little bit so it looks better for you guys. That's worse for you guys. There you go. So, there we are. So the first thing I do is we take and we flux it up. We put flux on all the pins. Right? Or all the pads. Make sure it gets onto the pads nice and well. Okay, now we need to get our thingamabobble here, thingamadude. John Mounts! Hello! House of Moth, is it fixed yet? No, Jay. No, I'm still waiting for it to get out of the ultrasonic cleaner. Inside joke. Okay, so try to get the video in here for you. So we get that right there on there. And I usually just align this with my fingers. I've gotten pretty good at it from doing several of these. There we are. So that is aligned. Vertifirk! Hi, Mike. So then here's what I do. I'm going to show you. So I clean my soldering iron, and I just apply the actual solder to the iron here. I forgot to turn on my fan. Stand by. Let's turn on my little exhaust fan. There we go. And then now that the solder is on the iron, in combination with the flux there, it'll wick right onto the pads. And I don't have to worry about applying solder at each pad individually with the actual end of the solder stuff. So basically, we just tap it on each pad, Just kind of drag it across there, and it basically will just wick it right off the iron and onto those pads. Now, I always do the pads first because those are the things that actually make the electrical connection for the thing to function. Then after the pads are on and everything is nice and aligned, then I can go around and solder the outer shield, which is what I do next. So again, just a little more solder on the iron, and we just kind of take the pointy end of the iron and kind of dunk it in there, and it just gets right onto each pad. Might need a little bit more solder on that. Oops, tiny bit more solder required. Ah, come on, do it. You silly butt, more solder required. Do it. Stick. There we go. Cool, and it's done. So that is on there. See, it's pretty straightforward. Now, yes, I am using the microscope to do this because it saves my old eyes. However, it is not required. You can do this with just a basic helping hands type of situation, like one of these things. That is just enough to do that. You don't need a super fine soldering tip either. The soldering tip I have is some big fat chunky chisel tip thing. So now this is just isopropyl alcohol on a toothbrush, and I'm just cleaning the excess flux off because the flux I use is super gooey, and we don't want the customer to have to put their fingers in that super gooey flux. I mean, I guess I have some customers who might be into that kind of thing, but you know, not everybody is. And I use a paper towel to just dry it off. Dry it off, done, clean, ready for the next step. Cool. Awesome sauce. Here we are. Next step. Click back to here. Now I'm going to see if I can get this camera a little bit closer as I knock boxes of things off. That was just a Mac floppy drive. Don't worry about that. It's all good. My shop is of limited space here. It's a 16-foot by 16-foot square, so it's not. Everything is very tight and compacted doodled together. So let's move. Hi, everybody. The camera down a little bit so you can get a better look at what I'm doing. That work? Cool. I need toasters on my SE30. Yeah. I've had this. This screensaver back here is called Moyer 2.2. I've had this screensaver for a billion years. I like this screensaver. It's just me. It's how I am. Green toasters, yes. Crush your head. Crush. House of Moth J, absolutely. Even 1,000 square foot face would be too small. Our space would be too small once we cram it full of thingamabobs. Yes, bobs. Bobs is technically what we said. Okay. It's easy after you've done it 1,000 times. Yeah. Dude, I was before I got this this microscope up here, I was doing 04, 02, 04s, really super tiny stuff, even way smaller than this thing, by eye. For the first prototype for the Apple IIc keyboard Kickstarter that MacEffects did. I helped develop that prototype, by the way. So yeah. So the next thing we do is we put in the these thingies. These are called diodes. That's what they're called. 2 diodes. We need just 2. 1, 2. I fold these over by hand. You can use one of those little metering devices. If you have a 3D printer, you can literally just go to like any 3D print repository and find one of those as a bendy thing. If you want, whatever. Who's that? Joe Williams. Hi, Joe Williams. How we all doing? Okay, so we put these in. Now, a little hard to see from here, but we do have right here. I have my focus set at the bench level here, and it's manual. So, but right here you can see we've got a line on the diode right there. which corresponds to the line on the diode on this side. So you need to make sure you get those aligned properly. If you don't get them aligned properly, worst case scenario, your BlueSCSI just won't work. It won't blow up. You're not going to break it. It's just not going to function correctly. So those are there. Solder those in place. Would you like an even closer view to the bench, guys? Or guys and gals. Sorry about that. People, if you do, let me know. I can lower the camera even more. I've still got plenty of room here to work. Just solder those in place. Okay. Use the snip snap tools, cut them off. Diodes in place. Next, we're going to do the resistors next. It takes two 330 ohm packs and two 220 ohm packs. How many of these do you have to build? Tonight, technically speaking, I'm only going to build two probably on camera, but I've got 5 orders totaling something like 7 or 8 units, and that is in 48 hours. Yeah, I put them up for sale and they disappear. So these are 331s, which are here. Now again, resistors is futile, yes. Sitting out a tornado, I'm sorry. Well, at least you get something entertaining to watch while you're waiting for the tornado to go away. Cool. Stand by. Bruce from Brankus Creations just sent me a direct message. So stand by. I'm looking for something here. I'm going to play around with this bench cam a little bit more. Edit. What is going on with my cameras? Like, my cameras are all screwed up. Stand by. Oh, because that's on. Got it. Okay. So then I need to well, I don't know why I can't edit. Why can't I edit these cameras? Wow. I can't close Windows. My computer just went all sideways. I can't open menus. Oh, I know why. This keyboard that fell over is like touching things. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do this, not that one. I wanted to go to this camera and do this. And I want to bring this down even closer so you guys can see it. That's better. That's better. This camera really doesn't have a zoom function. Gosh, I'm knocking over everything. I am the most professional streamer everywhere. And if people don't know that, then they're wrong. Autofocus. Needs to be about there. Yeah, that works for me. Cool. Apply. Do I have a zoom function? I do have a little bit of a zoom function. I didn't know that. Well, whatever. We're going to click OK. Good. Now you can actually see what I'm doing. Sorry about all that. Bye, Rudy. Everyone smash the like button. Yes, that Windows life. House of Moth, it actually wasn't a Windows problem. It was my Model M keyboard is shoved over here in the corner because everybody keeps complaining about it. And so it fell off the shelf over there, and the escape key was being pressed constantly, so I couldn't open any windows. It would just cancel out of each window. So those are the 330s. These are the 220s. So the 330s go on this bottom row. The 220s go in the top row. And the little square in the corner here, that little line, the square, indicates the side of the device where the writing is. So there's a little dot over here that indicates which way that goes. Mac Effects Super Sticker. Wow! Super Sticker! Whoop! Thank you, Mac Effects. We were just talking about our keyboard project that we're doing. So we're going to put the 220s in. Those go in like that. We put the 330s in like that. Now I'm going to show you how I do the legs on these. So I have a stick right here. It's basically, it's the end of a cotton swab that I use for bending over pins. And so I will actually use it to bend over the pins on each end of these in opposing directions, and it will hold the resistor packs exactly in place. Now, you could say, that's blasphemy, you're not supposed to do that. Fight me. It works for me. It works perfectly. It works every single time. And I actually put the resistor packs in the correct way, so I don't have to take them back out again. And I'm also double checking that I've done the right ones. And see, now that they're in there, they're all held in, they don't come out, and now I can just solder them directly into place. Yeah, Bruce. They're just, stock is crazy on everything. It's insane. So here's another trick I use. This is that blue tack stuff. It's used to like stick stuff to walls, right? But I use it to actually hold my board to the bench so that while I'm soldering, it doesn't slide around on me. So now we just solder all these pins. Lots of pins. Sometimes I'll actually do this pin soldering under the microscope because it's a little easier to do. Sometimes I'll just do it here by eye, as I'm doing now. Just whatever random way I want to do it. Now, Bruce, who is in the chat, hi Bruce, actually has a little soldering jig that he's created. And I printed one, but I haven't used it yet. I think I might have to reprint it because I believe that my print speed was too high or something. So some of the features ended up getting, I don't know how to put it. When you do 3D prints, if you print too fast, the corners of hard edges can get a little rounded over. It also depends on the quality of your printer and its firmware settings and stuff like that too. But in my case, that happens. And of course, we're trying to put square objects into those little recesses. And when they round over like that, they don't fit into those recesses. So the downside is to solve that on my printer, I just have to print at like half the speed of smell to make that work. But whatever. The sun is shining again. Yay! Good for you. You'll use your daughter's Play-Doh. Please don't. Lead is bad for you. The broken floppy drive was just dirty. Yeah! So those are in there. So next we do the little termination pins. So I have just buttloads of those pins. They come in little strips of 40 are usually the strips that are the most cost effective. You can buy them pre-cut. When you buy them pre-cut, they cost more per pin. And cutting them is a breeze. You just use your snips. You put them right there between. And snap them. So that's usually the most cost effective. And I like cost effective because one, I am cheap as hell. And number two, I like to pass my cost savings down to my customers so that I don't have to have higher prices for my products. So now those go on now. Now here's a trick, here's an issue. If I were to try to solder those, one, they're going to go all over the place and go wacky because they're not really solid and in place because they're really fiddly kind of shaky things they jiggle around. Number two, say if I were to hold those with my finger and flip it over and solder it, that is bare super hot metal on my finger. So the next thing that I do is I actually get the little shunt-a-doodles, the little jumpers for the terminator power, and I put them on now while I'm at it. Because one, they need to be shipped with them on there. But two, they act as little finger insulators so that I can hold down the part with my finger while soldering the other side using a one-handed soldering technique. And it works. So we're going to do one because these are a little easier to do one at a time. And so I put my middle finger there, or my ring finger there, and I hold this like this. And I can use the thumb and forefinger like that to feed the solder in. Trick. It's not quite straight, but it's in place. So now that I have a free hand, or free fingers, I can use the extra dexterity of my grippy thumb, remelt that, even that out straight and flat. Boom, done. Straight and flat in all directions. And now we repeat. Countdown to the heat. Hey, Ron, how you doing, man? Now we do it again. You use your ring finger and then this finger like that to kind of hold it together. And we're just using the weight of the board itself as my thumb, effectively. And then we just solder that on there. It's a little crooked, so now we put pressure on the back side of it, remelt it, get it straight up and down, straight. Perfect. And then we just solder the other pin. And then I reflow a little bit on those first pins I did. Like that, all done. Grippy thumb, hashtag, yes. I mean, you can use one of these things to do that, to hold the board while you do that, and different stuff like that. For these little small things, these little things where there's not a lot of weight or whatever, I can just, balance it there under my my fingers like that and just hold it in place and go boop and do the thing. So I learned that from Big Clyde, bigclyde.com. On the YubTubs. He is an absolutely outstanding electronics guy. So next we need to put on these stripadoodles. Now, depending on how you're building this, if you're going to be building this to add the LED option to it, which in this case I'm not going to, the next thing you want to do is put the two resistors in here because they're hidden up under the edge of the board, up under the edge of the blue pill, so they can be hard to get up underneath there if you do the blue pill first. I'm not building those with that, so I'm not going to be putting those in. Also, if you get the LED option, you need to put the sets of pins in there too for the little LED headers to connect on there to go out to your LEDs. But again, since we're not building this one this way, we're not going to need to do that. So now we're going to put the blue pill on. Where are my parts? So we need those, and we need those. All my blue pills come pre-programmed when I send these out, so you don't need to do anything with them. So as you can see, these pins have a long side and a short side. The short side goes down towards the board, towards the main board, and then the blue pill lays on top. You'll notice that it says USB right here, and the USB connector for the blue pill is over here. Make sure those are aligned correctly. If you put them backwards, bad things happen. So this is the only really tricky part, is getting those aligned. Didn't quite get it. I have to do it again. Come on now. It's being stupid today. You usually put one pin there and kind of rotate around it to get to the other pin. There we are. And it's on there. And so now this will just gravity will just hold that in place on this side. So what I do is while that's gravity is just pulling the blue pill down, I just tack the blue pill onto the pins so that the blue pill is attached to the pins. So we can do that now. So I do that by tacking a corner, then pressing down with my thumb very lightly, then retacking the corner to make sure it actually seats all the way on the pin. And I do that for all four corners. I don't think that took solder. Stand by. I usually do this part under the microscope. There we go. It took. There we are. And then this corner. this corner. Now, that's all the way on there. Now, the pins are, that holds the pins to the blue pill so that it's one solid unit. Now we can flip this upside down, and the gravity of that will hold it down in place. Now, I will usually use a little piece of blue tack or something under this edge so it doesn't fly all over the place. But yeah. So now we can do the same thing here. Now I offset by 1 because I don't want to melt the solder on the other side of the corner pin. So I come in 1. Again, melt it, squeeze it together to make sure it's seated. Repeat for all 4 corners. Now this usually doesn't have a problem because, again, the gravity of this board, the weight of the board holds it down pretty well. Now that is all nice and fixed, and now we just run all of the pins. What are people talking about in the chat? Strip-a-doodles. Careful, Ron. I tried to make an Action retro-style computer, plugged a 68020 upgrade into Mac SE, then tried to install a 68030 upgrade for Mac 2 in the 68020 socket. The Radius Sonnet software fought each other to death. Oh, that's funny. Joe, would painter's tape help to hold things to solder? Yes, you can do that too. Painter's tape does help. There are 100 different ways you can do it, but basically the entire process here is to hold the object in place via some process. Your basic human brain will figure that out the first or second or third time you go to do that, and you'll just find a way that works for you. I used to use painter's tape. I still do it under certain circumstances, but for the BlueSCSIs, they're tiny little footery things, and I find that for most of what I do, the gravity of just holding it in place does a perfect job. It just works. So I don't look that gift horse in the mouth. So let's go ahead and run these pins. What about plumber's tape? No. Admins, revoke his... No, I'm kidding. Don't do that. Fourth thing. Ron apparently is just on a hashtag thing tonight. It seems like every comment he's posting is a hashtag. Okay. Just running the pins. There are 40 of them that we have to do twice. We have to do the bottom side and the top side. I really wish these things came with the pins pre-soldered. It would save both me and all of my customers quite a bit of time, but they don't. So whatever. But it is a good way to get a lot of soldering practice. So, I can't really complain. I mean, I am complaining, but whatever. I'm using quite a few cool tools. I got my soldering station. I've got the soldering spool up here, my microscope, and all that stuff. If you're into getting into this retro repair stuff, or just tinkering and hobby tinkering around with soldering and stuff, you can go to my website, jcm-1.com/tools, and I have a full list of all my tools that I use, with Amazon affiliate links that cost you absolutely nothing, but gives me a small little drop, and it helps out. Ken Bynell, hey Ken. Oh my gosh, what is with all the hashtags? Hey Justin, how you doing? So that's in. So now we need to do the top side of this. Now these pins are kind of close together and they're kind of near stuff. So I'm going to do this part under the scope cam. So we're going to do that. Again, I'm going to use a little bit of the blue tack stuff to hold this in place. Now you may not be able to see this that well. I'm just doing this part under the scope, mostly for my benefit. It's just soldering the pins. There's nothing fancy to happen here. Just soldering a lot of pins. Okadoka. Move that up again so I can see more pins. Pin, 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 pin. A little excess solder on that pin. There we go. And now we flip it around and do the other side. As you can see, not to toot my own horn, but I've gotten fairly quick at doing these. Okay, almost done with this side. Just a few more to go. As you can see, it's not very difficult to put these together. It's pretty straightforward. The hardest part, honestly, is the surface mount thing. But again, if you've got any old cheap flux will work. If you got any old flux, I mean, I prefer the Amtech flux here that I use, the NC559V2-TF. But as long as you've got some sort of flux and some sort of basic magnifying lens, you can do this part yourself. It is not that hard, to be honest. Okay, so that side is in. We're going to double check our work, make sure that side is in as well. It is. Cool. So now we've got two more parts to do. We've got the 50-pin connector doodle here. Click back to that. We've got the 50-pin connector we have to do and the Berg power connector. So we're going to get the 50-pin connector. I have those over here, and these are right angle connectors, mostly because the person who ordered this ordered a right angle connector for it. So we're going to, again, just use gravity to our advantage. We pop that in place. I'm going to use a little bit of blue tack just to keep it from wobbling around. We tack one pin. We double check it to make sure that that side is nice and even. Needs a little bit of adjustment. There we go, that's good. We do the other side. Can we check it? It is way the heck off. There we go. That's good. Cool. Now we just run the pins again. Lots and lots and lots of pins. Super duper pins. Yes, people use lots of different soldering irons. The Pine Sols are good. Hakko soldering stations are good. The main thing I'd say about any soldering station that you get is, one, don't get something that's insanely super cheap and crappy, even though the one that I am suggesting is super insanely cheap and crappy because it happens to be one that works. It also takes the Hakko T12 chip, T12 tips. And as I said before, I am an insanely cheap human being. But the main thing you want is you want a variable temperature control. If you're doing like one thing every once in a while, those cheap soldering handles, those like little 40-watt irons or whatever, the old Radio Shack specials, yeah, sure, you can use those. But you have no idea what temperature it's set at. It could be insanely hot. It could be not hot enough. You could have bad joints, burned out traces, any number of problems from those. So whatever you get, my only suggestion would be get one that has a variable temperature control. That way you can set it to a temperature that you like. I have my iron currently set at 420 degrees Celsius. It's a little bit on the warmer end. I used to use it at 390, but I found that I had some problems with certain kinds of joints that way, so I cranked it up a little bit, and it just works for me. The solder just melts, and it's good. Because of the higher temperature, I do have to be a little bit more careful in situations where I'm doing surface level repair of capacitor bombed or battery bombed boards, because the pads can be already loosened from the board, and that extra heat can cause me to lift pads accidentally. It happens. It's a thing that happens, but if you have you've done this long enough and you have enough experience, you know how to fix those, so it's not too big of a deal. It's like a oops, no use crying over spilled milk kind of situation. So the pin connector is on there. Now we need to put in the little Berg power connector, which is right here. The Hakko FR301. Yes, the FR301 is an outstanding soldering or desoldering station. There are cheaper clones around as well that are okay. They're not great. The Hakko FR301, keep in mind, though, requires pretty good maintenance on it. You're going to have to, every time when you're done using it, you want to clean it out to keep it running good, or else you have run into problems. They tend to eat through their filters pretty quick, and sometimes the pump has a little two-way check valve type of little plastic check valve thing that can go get kind of funked up. If you try to desolder any joints where you've used sticky flux before or any kind of flux, so you want to make sure you do those without having added flux to joints, because it vaporizes, gets into that and screws up the valve. Ask me how I know. Joe, I will buy it after clicking your Amazon affiliate link. Well, thank you, Adam McG. That is very helpful, and I do appreciate that. There are other ways you can do solder removal. There is a Japanese-made soldering. I think it's Japanese-made. Japanese-made manual desoldering pump. Has a little. It's got just a plunger. You plunge it down, and then it has a Teflon tip on it. And you use your soldering iron to melt the joint, and then you put the Teflon tip on there and trigger it, and sucks it right up. Those actually work pretty well as long as you get a good one. A lot of the cheaper ones are crap, and that's why a lot of people end up graduating, so to speak, to the FR301. But if you get a good one, you don't necessarily need it. So, okay. Michael's Workshop, I heard the Hakko sucks. Yeah, we know what you mean by that, Mr. I am the master of jokes. So, there, that's it. It's done. It's completed doodled. It's all complete. So now we need to get this mounted into a 3D printed case. Hey, would you look at that? Somebody's got a 3D printed case to put it in. So let's get the screws that I need to put that in. Here are the screws that I use. Now, the screws I use to fix these are not the same ones that the rest of the BlueSCSI guys use, because I don't like the ones that they use. They tend to use the like machine screws to fix them into the fixture here, and I find they're hard to get threaded and started personally. But that's just, I guess that might just be me. So I use these little kind of like wood screws, self tappers that, in my humble opinion, do a better job. Can I get this all in there? Now, getting the clearance on these can be a little tough. Sometimes we got to pry a little bit. Yeah, it's in there all the way. This is one of the parts of the process that kind of makes me grumpy. It's like sometimes I just cannot get it to go into the 3D print. Sometimes I got to carve the corner out of the. Again, we were talking about corners on 3D prints doing weird things. I tend to print these out pretty fast on a pretty fast setting, so that it doesn't take like 18 hours to print them out. It only takes about 6 to print out 12 of them. Hush. But that again leads to these corners being a little rounded, and so sometimes I can't get the device to go down in there, so I have to do a little trimming and stuff. You can do it. You can do it. Okay, so then we just take our screws and we screw them down through the screw holes. These screws are stainless steel, so they aren't magnetic, so they don't stick to my screwdriver, but whatever. There we are. One completed unit. So now we can hook it up to my Mac SE back here and test it out. So let's change cameras. So let's hook things up here. Need to shut this down. Special shutdown. Okay. I got my little cable connector here for hooking stuff up. I need a little bit more cable. Thank you. Cool. And I've got an adapter here that allows me to plug in my 25 or my 50 pins into the 25 pin thing in the back, just like that. I have a testing thing, whatever, SD card, colored blue, so I know which one it is, specifically for testing BlueSCSI. So it just has a single partition on it. And we turn it on, we see what happens. Did I do it right? One red light, no green blinky light, which means it sees it. It's booting from the internal hard drive, and that's good. And if this boots correctly, I should get a BlueSCSI icon on the desktop. Yep, BlueSCSI test right here. BlueSCSI test. Boom, done, functional and works. Yeah, woo! So there we have one working BlueSCSI desktop. Easy peasy. It is super easy to do, guys. If I can do it, you can do it. And I'm telling you what, I am not that freaking smart. So next, let's do a DB25. Let's do an external one. Now, the external ones are slightly easier to do. They're slightly fewer pins and parts to do. Ah, delicious. Cool. Not sponsored. Okay. So the next one we're going to build is this. Now, this, of course, you see says JS on it. This is my bench unit, which has all of my tools and stuff that I use for diagnosing people's computers and stuff on that. But we're going to be building one. So let's go back to BenchCam. And what do we need to do that? Well, it uses a slightly different PCB. That PCB is actually a little bit smaller, but the process is mostly the same. Basically, you've got two parts on the back you have to do first. So you have the SD card and a single diode you have to do. Now, you don't have any termination pins you have to do because the DB25s are auto-terminated, so you don't have to worry about that. But these two go on the back, and you have to make sure that those go on first because there's other stuff that goes on this side that blocks those connections once you don't do it. So, yeah. So, let's do the thing. I need one of these. Right there. Okay. Now we're going to go back over to the camera. That camera right there. Cool. Little extra focus for you guys so you can see what I'm doing. Cool. So we put on the flux. We put on the socket. We tin our iron. And then we get to work. Get these all lined up. Just like that. One quick drag solder across and they're all done. Yeah, I've done this a few times. just a few. Pin. Pin. That pin didn't really take. Let's try that again. I'm actually going to feed solder on that one because it's not behaving itself. There we go. Now these here on the DB25 can be pretty tricky because they're pretty close to these through-hole connections, so you have to be a little careful with that. There we are. Like a champ. Now I am going to check this because I overdid the solder a little bit on that one side. But it's okay. Solder on this one pin is a little high because it was the last one in the drag solder. It tends to do that. Better! Cool. Now we clean it. Now we clean it! Boink. Isopropyl alcohol. Toothbrush. Dry it off with a paper towel. That's it. Next, one diode. Again, aligning the marks on the diode to the marks on the board. Boink. Solder. Solder. And snip. Okay. Next on these is going to be the resistors, which you want to be careful because when you put the blue pill on top, it kind of overhangs the resistor footprint here a little bit, so it can be a little bit difficult to get things aligned. So you have to be careful with that. We need two 330s, two 220s. I have to look at this real quick in the scope because I didn't remember which ones are which. The 220s are closer to the blue pill. The 330s go farther away. You can go into there and stay in there. Thank you. 330. $330. Behave. There you go. 330. Cool. Now we use my swab trick. Keep those in place. And we solder them. Steve! Hey, Steve, how you doing? All the people are here. Everybody's watching. Thank you very much for stopping by and keeping me company on this weird Monday morning. Morning? Evening? Whatever. I don't know. It's morning somewhere. Probably somewhere in central China. Right now it's morning. Solder all the things. Oops. See, I wasn't being careful. I filled a solder pin hole. I'll show you how we fix that real quick. Boink. So if you look carefully here, I filled a through hole accidentally. I touched my iron where it shouldn't have gone. So we just use desoldering wick, and we can suck all that stuff right out of there. So we'll do that. Little soldering wick, little heat, and it's clear. Piece of cake. Easy peasy. While we're here, we might as well go ahead and just finish doing those under the scope, since it is a little easier on my eyes and I go a little faster doing that. It's a little harder for you guys to kind of see what I'm doing because the scope I can't fit the whole view of the scope in at once, but again, it's just soldering pins. It's nothing fancy here. See you, Bruce. Thanks for stopping by, man. Pins, 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 pins. Lots of tasty solder pins. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, Joe's lost it. I'm like, buddy, I lost it so long ago. You have no idea. Of course, this process right here is identical to the way we did on the 50-pin internal one, just on a slightly different board. So that's done. So now we do the blue pill, which is done, again, the exact same way. We've got those. We got one of these, and we do the thing. Small sides go into the board. Large sides are up. Or long sides, I should say. Short sides into the board, long sides up. Align the USB with USB. Do one side, then the other side, and wiggle it on there. Like that. Piece of delicious cake. Now we affix the blue pill to the pins. Now you can see here what I was talking about, how close those clear. So you can see when I put them in, I made sure to splay them this direction so that it would clear the blue pill. Did I do that one already? I think I did, but we're going to redo it just in case. That one. And this one. Then we flip it over and do the same to the other side. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this in here first because that allows this to sit level on the back side here, and it allows me to solder that a little bit better. So we're going to go ahead and put in the 25-pin connector, which is a little tricky to get aligned. Little tricky to get aligned. So another thing that can happen is if you splay these out this way away from the blue pill, then they can interfere with the back shell. But that's easy. You just push them back like that and they fold out of the way. There we go. That's in place. Now I don't have to solder this in. The little connectors on the side hold that in really well. It just holds it in place, but allows this to be a nice level surface for soldering. And then we can prop that side up with the goop and do the thing. Aw, thanks, Steve. Joe lost it so long ago, they're still digging up the fossils of those bits and pieces. Man, you know it. You know it. You absolutely know it. So I'm going to go ahead and do this under the microscope. Even though it's a little harder for you to see, it's easier for me to get it done. Scope cam. Cool. I can do it faster under the scope. Also, the extra light from the scope just makes it easier. A little tricky to get that one, but we got it. Cool. Now we just run the pins. Pins, 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 pins. It's like Bob Ross does soldering. Just a few more on this side to do, and then we can do the top side. Now these up here next to the SD card are a little bit tricky to get from this angle, so I'm going to do a little prestidigitation with my magic wand here and get it from a slightly weird angle. And those two pins are soldered together accidentally, and now they're not. There we go. So now we flip side, do the other side. Cool. Lots of pins to do. Pins with a capital P. That rhymes with G, and that stands for good. Okay. There's trouble in Scuzzy City. Now, I will say if you solder these, if you're going to do these kits yourselves, that the tinning on the blue pills seems to be like a silver solder tinning, and not a lead solder tinning, and that means that it doesn't take solder quite as easily. You have to really feed it the onion, so to speak. Get a lot of really fluxy solder in the pins there. You could also just apply liquid solder to it. Or liquid solder, liquid flux to it if you like. To do that, I'm not a fan of doing liquid flux unless it's absolutely necessary to use liquid flux. Smash that like button. Yes, thank you for reminding everybody, Steve. I do appreciate that. Yes, hit the like button. It helps the YouTube algorithm do algorithmic thingies. Basically, if a lot of people like my videos, that means it's going to show my videos to more people, which means that I'm going to get more subscribers and more viewers, and the channel will grow. And when the channel grows, that naturally means I end up getting more resources to do more cool stuff, which is always a good thing. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. It costs you absolutely nothing, except a couple seconds of your time, and allows you to get updates when I'm doing cool stuff like this live stream. You can also hit the little bell to get the in-browser automatic notification things too. So that is in place. So now we got to put the 25-pin jubby on. So it's pretty much the same deal all over again. Let's focus that a little bit better. Cool. I went ahead and ordered a Yellowstone already. I ordered it basically the moment it got announced. Partially to help support Steve Chamberlain's efforts. He has done so much for the community with the floppy EMU. Even though the floppy EMU could be better, in my opinion, in some of its interaction, he was kind of the first to pioneer that format of a device you just plug in directly into your floppy controller to just about any Apple to Mac device, whatever, to allow it to just work with the default hardware. And that's a boon because it greatly lowers the barrier to entry for getting back into retro computers for a lot of people. Having the Lyron card is kind of the, how can I put it? It's the natural expansion of that effort, because then it allows you to then take the next step and more fully, how can I put it? On the Apple II, more fully use the capabilities of the floppy EMU that you may have purchased from him, and actually have full hard drive images at full smart port speed, right? You can also use 800K disk images and stuff like that, and get better functionality out of your system. I would really love to test it in an Apple II GS and see if it's faster than the built-in smart port, so to speak, the built-in floppy port, just for giggles. Of course, I'll be getting one of those fairly soon when he ships them out, so we'll see. So now we need to solder this. I'm going to show you how I solder these. Now, you can fill that whole hole with solder. It's not really necessary. Basically, what I do is I'll just put the iron right in the crux, right in the corner there, just to heat that up, and I just touch it right there on the edge. Right on the edge of it, right on the edge of it. That's all you need. You don't need a lot of extra solder. You don't have to fill that whole hole in. It's not necessary. So again, we'll show you one more time. Put your iron on there, get it hot, add a little bit of solder. Same over here, a little bit of solder. Done. Done! I fill it in for mechanical strength. Yeah, you can do that. Wrong, Joe. I'm wrong? What am I wrong about? Please tell me I'm wrong. What am I wrong about? So you fill it in for mechanical strength. Okay, well, we will demonstrate that in. So basically, you just put the iron on, and you just keep adding solder to it until it's full. Like that. Oh, wrong Joe. Incorrect Joe. Got it. Ow! Ow! I just burnt my finger. Solder indeed hot. There you go. Cool. So now that is all together, 100%. Except we have to do one little thing, and I'll show you what that is. So when you build these connectors are designed to be like on a motherboard and receive a plug. However, we're using them backwards from the way they're supposed to be used. And so that means we have these little hex head connectors in here. Now, these hex head connectors will interfere with the hex head connectors on your Mac, and this won't plug into the port. So we have to actually take these out and replace them with little machine screws. Now, these are the machine screws I was talking about earlier. Let me find them. They always get lost in the bottom of my container here. little screw-madoobs. So we take the hex heads out. We'll put the screws in, and my little Tecton toolkit here that it has I use for my pentalobe stuff. Was it this one? Has the correct size to remove those? I thought it was that one. Where did I put it? Oh, it's over here. It's off to the side. I kept it out. It's right here. So this goes on there. Comes right off. And then we use the screwdriver and put a screw in. I had a SCSI connector break off when I didn't fill it with solder on an SE Reloaded board. Good to know. I might just want to start filling in those connectors all the way then. Thank you for that information. I appreciate that. Now I do these one screw at a time because the hex heads actually hold this little shell on, and by doing them one at a time keeps the shell from flying off into the nether somewhere. Screws are in place. These little hex head things. I've got 1 billion of them now. Each BlueSCSI gets a kiss. Mwah. Okay, so now we need to get this one set up. So I need my thing again here. We will switch on over. Now I'm just double checking my work, make sure I didn't miss anything. Nope, we're going to switch screens again to face cam. Get the connector. Put the connector on there, like so, and we turn it on. Where's the power switch? You look at the light. Single red light, no blinking light. And the Mac just went da-da-da-da on me, which probably has nothing to do with this. It probably has everything to do with this Mac being silly. Let's try booting it without that on there. Ooh, this BlueSCSI caused a problem. So I'm going to look at this under the scope. I'm going to double check all my work and make sure I did not screw anything up. So let's do that. Scope cam. I'm going to zoom way in. Just checking to make sure every single pin is soldered and I have no bridges between pins. Yeah, I don't see anything weird there. So let's check these pins. Everything looks okay. I don't see anything weird going on. Yeah, it looks good to me. Anybody see anything weird while I was scanning the pins there? Check microcontroller, yeah. It's flustered because of the kit. One pin on the DB25 looked like it had light solder. Well, let's double check that. Well, they all look good to me. Just looking for little solder balls between pins or anything like that. Honestly, it looks fine to me. Perfectly fine. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Well, we'll try it again. See what happens. Bad STM board. I mean, it could be. I test every single one of the boards before I put them together to make sure at the very least they take the firmware flash and all of that, but whatever. You thought you saw something between two of its pins on the microcontroller. Well, let's double check that. Pokey tool. There's a little bit of like a flux residue right here, but that's nothing. A little flux residue there, nothing major. Well, looks fine to me. You guys seeing something I'm not seeing? What about those two that were connected for a second? Yes, on the back side here, I accidentally bridged a couple of these. May have also been these. You know, I've checked it 10 ways to Sunday. Also, I have to check for a little thing when I do this bend over. These can get a little close, and just making sure there's not a bridge there. Nope, that's good. Those aren't bent together. I have them in the right direction. Just make sure that I have the actual resistors in the correct direction. Stand by. Yep. They are. The 330s are in the closer set as they should be. Yep, the 330s are the closer ones, and that's what these are. They're in the right way. That's in the right way. Ha-ha! See that? We got a backwards resistor pack. You see that? That one's in the wrong way. It must have fallen out, and I shoved it back in. Yep, that's backwards. Ha-ha! Cool. So now remember what I was saying about, oh, you don't need to worry about bending the pins over because I put them in the correct direction. Now I get to eat crow live on stream. So it's this one here. This one right here is in backwards. Yes, Thomas Armstrong. Thank you for mentioning that in the chat. I just didn't see it. So we need to get this out of here. Requires a little bit of work to get these pins bent back up so I can use the solder sucking machine. That's not a big deal. As you can see, we took care of it quite readily. Same thing here. Quite readily. Turn on the solder sucker! Moo moo! It's the Mac 84 curse. Now you see here, yeah, you have to give both Steve and I a little bit of credit. You know, doing this while on a live stream, your focus is a little bit split, right? So it makes total sense why we both made mistakes like that. Get out the machine. Wait for the red light to go out. The red light is out. So, again, reminding myself which one it is. It is this one here. Yes. Okay. This under the scope real quick and make sure pins are nice and clear or clear enough. Sometimes I have to kind of pop them clear with my iron. All right. So now we see if we can get it out of here. Which is a little easier said than done because of the angle we're dealing with here. I mean, it's loose. There we go. Took a little while. I'm going to check the through holes make sure I didn't damage anything. Check the vias to make sure I didn't damage anything. It all looks good. Now we can put this back in the correct direction. Where's my little flat? There it is. This allows me to straighten pins. Looks good. Looks good. Cool. Now we can get it put back in the correct direction, which goes this way. Easier said than done. After it's assembled, easier, way easier said than done. Can't see what I'm doing. There we are. Cool beans. There we go. Now we can solder the resistor packs. Your face cam is blocking the view. Yes, I know. Scope cam. Wouldn't your dip chin pin straightener work? Yes, that could work as well. But these are SIP pins, single inline pins. And I think in my case, usually I find that the this kind of, here, I'll put it under the microscope. This little flat guy does a really good job at flattening pins out. So that's just, maybe that's just my personal preference. I don't know. So get this soldered back in place. Now, hopefully, by putting those in backwards, I didn't kill my SCSI controller or the external port fuse or something like that. I probably didn't, but we'll see. There we go. Cool. Face cam again. Need to shut the Mac down for safety. We connect that. I need my testing SD card. We turn it on. One red, no blinky light, so that's good. You guys see that? One red, no blinky. This time it's not killing it. It's diode protected, yes. It's booting up. And I have the BlueSCSI test right on there. Boom! Yeah. Sweet! So that's how you build BlueSCSIs, except, you know, putting the resistors in the correct direction. Pretty straightforward. Now we need to get the 25 pin into its little case. And we get to show you that. Yeah. Cool. So let's do that. So while I'm here, I'm going to clean up tools a little bit. I tend to do that after every short segment or project to just keep me sane, keep the desk relatively uncluttered. It's very helpful to do that. Let's clean the machine real quick before we turn it off. Use the little cleaner tool. Make sure that's nice and clean, and switch it off. Cool. Now, we need to put this into its little 3D printed case. And when you know it, I got 3D printed cases. I don't remember who, I think Kay Koba designed these. The person who did Spicy O'Clock and several other cool things. And I just used that design. It's a combination of a nifty blue bottom shell and a really cool clear top shell, so you can see the lights through the top of it. Now, my 3D printer tends to print these little hook things a little bit too weird. They don't work very well. So I actually snip those off a little bit because if I don't, maybe it's the filament I use, I don't know. But if I don't snip those, snip a little bit of the hook off before trying to put it together in this, they just end up breaking off. And then I end up wasting the print. So all I have to do is just take my snips and snip just a little bit off, just to reduce the stress on that joint when I put it together. I could modify the print. I'm too lazy. Now, there are some support structures here as well that I need to take out. This little support structure here just helps hold up this lip during 3D printing, because you can't have overhangs in 3D printing. And then because these are open spots, again, there's some little support structures in here. So these got to come out. And they just pop right out with a little sharp little pokey tool. Same thing here. We just kind of drive the tool down in here. And it just pulls right out. Except it didn't that time. There we are. Comes right out. Like a champ. I want to get into recycling these little bits. I'm sure I could probably recycle these, remelt them, and like not waste stuff, but whatever. And so now, this guy slides in here. Now, this can be a little tricky to get this alignment correct. Goes all the way back and kind of sockets down until it's flush in the front, and it is. And then this slides under two little catches here, and it pops in place. And that's it. A fashionable little external little whoopie-doo. And then the little, you've got the slot there to put the card in and everything. Two beautiful BlueSCSIs built. Awesome. So we're going to put those to the side, and we're going to take a short little break and chat for a couple minutes. How's everybody going? Did anybody have any questions about that process as I was doing that process? I'm going to go back to the chat and look and see if anybody had anything cool to talk about. Test by fire, blah, 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 reading. Delicious. We talked about all of those. Look at log file on SE card to validate problem. SCSI side or BlueSCSI side. Yeah. We figured out the actual thing. Javier, go back to work. No. Yes. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. The diode chip pin straightener. So the diode chip or the dip pin straightener. I personally, when I'm aligning SIP pins, I like to just use my pair of pliers. It gives me a little bit more control. So yeah. Geek with social skills. What is the temperature on your soldering iron? Thank you for asking. The soldering iron that I use is a Kisker T12 soldering station. It takes standard Hacko T12 tips. And I did that because it cost $89 instead of $489 because I am cheap as heck. The temperature I have it running at is currently 420 degrees. I run it a little warm. 390 is also a good temperature. Anywhere between that 390 to 420 range does a pretty good job. I find that running it a little bit low at the 390 can lead to incomplete wetting of joints and stuff like that. But it tends to work a little bit better. The lower temperature works a little bit better when you're working with vintage repair. Anything older than, say, like 1989, old Apple IIs, Franklins, especially if you're working on any old device from a company that is notorious for its cheapening of its boards, Atari boards, Commodore 64 boards, stuff like that. If the temperature is too high, you can just utterly destroy pads and vias. And pull you can yank entire traces off of boards and stuff. So you want to lower your temperature just to the point where it works, right? I had to recap my Kisker because I blew a cap out. Yeah, and see, that's the thing. I'm cheap as heck, but I know how to fix stuff. So I'm willing to deal with a little bit of a quality thing if the quality doesn't have anything to do with the design. It is more about the manufacturer. The Kister station I have, designed great, works great. Mine came with the mains power plug, had broken off. The actual solder joint broke right off the bat. But I already had a working soldering iron, so I can't speak. I was able to use my old iron to fix the new iron base, but whatever. Yeah. Yeah, the guts are well made. Yeah, the Kister irons are really good. No complaints. The only complaint about my Kister iron is that because it uses an OLED, a blue OLED screen, it burns the screen out. But it is an open source screen panel, so if I ever want to replace it, I can literally get one on like AliExpress for $1.99, wait 6 months for it to arrive, and put a new panel in it. It's no big deal. So yeah, it is what it is. So what are we gonna do next? It's still a little early. It's 8 p.m. Do we want to work on building an SE Reloaded? Should we do that? Will that be fun? Maybe that'll be fun. I don't know if I have all the parts to do it, but I have a busted SE, and I also have a busted SE board. I also have an SE Reloaded board that was wonderfully, very kindly donated to me by Mac Effects. Thank you. Along with some of the harder to get parts were donated along with it as well. So we can at least get started. I don't have a lot of sockets for the back and stuff like that, but I do, since I do have a dead board with a lot of, and by dead, I mean, it's got bad traces and stuff. It's battery bombed. I do have a lot of the large components for it that we can use. So I also have all of the capacitors because I recap those, but it's also an SE. So it just takes those like 330 microfarad. What the hell are those things called? Axial capacitors. So yeah. I had IWM. Do you have that? Yes, I've got a full board that I can pull chips from. Yep, the HD. Oh, the HD IWM, or also known as the SWIM chip, the Super IWM. Yes, I believe I have one, so I'm not worried about that. One of them is in right over there. So let's go ahead and grab the board. I have no idea how far I'm going to get with this tonight. Would you look at this? I happen to just have the board on the bench and ready to go. Look at that. Look at that. Hi, BlueSCSI stuff. Can you slide to the side a little bit? Cool. Stuff. It's a beautiful board. Yes, it is. There's so many things I don't have for this board. The PDS slot, the inductors and things. I've got some of these sockets. I got the socket, so we can put like the BBU socket in. I've got the memory slot, so we can put those in. All of these sockets here, I've got buttloads of extra sockets, so that's not going to be a problem. But a lot of the chips, we're going to have to steal chips from other things. But that's okay. We'll go ahead and do it. A clear case with a red CRT. Well, I've got the orange CRT here. I've got the Pumpkintosh. I could put the red board in the Pumpkintosh and kind of do that, but I don't know. So let's go ahead and do the thing. Let's just start shoving crap on the board. Now, this board is really cool because it's all through hole. There's no surface mount components at all. So it's a really, even though it is a large project, it is a very approachable project for an enthusiast who wants to really get deep down and get a really cool Mac out of the entire process. So that's cool. So let's just kind of like start doing stuff. This goes in here. Are my pins bent? One or two of them are. Try that again. All right. The boo-boo. And we can use a little bit of sticky tape here for the blue tack to actually hold the socket in place while we solder it on. Just like that. And same process that we've done a billion times before. Solder a pin. Make sure it's pressed down flat. Remelt the solder. Repeat 15 billion times. To the corner. Push it flat. Remelt it. In place. Cool. We no longer need this stuff on there because the solder is holding it in place. And now we run the pins. This is the BBU socket. Should probably show the board credits there. Recreated in Sprint Layout 6.0 by Kai Robinson. Special thanks to those people there. Inspired by John Hartel. SE30 Reloaded, board version 1.5, which, if memory serves, is the final version. Lots of pins. Pins, 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 pins. That was supposed to be 68K times. I wish I had a wave solder bath. Wow, yeah. That'd be cool. Yeah, and that's the entire Glitchy Mario. Yeah, that's the entire point of this, is to have this board, to have it designed and done. So if you ever want to, you know, if you ever need to fix your SE down the road, you've got it. A lot of the SEs that are out there are still just fine. The SE is one of those boards that tends not to go too bad unless it battery bombs, because it doesn't have a lot of those surface mount electrolytics. But when they go bad because of the battery bomb. Your public service announcement: get the damn batteries out. Remove the batteries. Yeah, so having this board and having a direct, complete clone of the board is great. If I ever get this work up and running, maybe I can do a giveaway. Maybe we can do a little giveaway contest for this or something. I don't know. Because I really don't think I need it. I've got a working SE and a working SE board and a working SE30 board. I mean, I don't need more than one. They work. They've been recapped. And the batteries have been removed, so I have no risk of battery bombs. And they've been recapped with tantalum, so they should effectively run forever. So I really don't need this board. So maybe I can do a giveaway. I don't know when. There we go. Still haven't got a replacement. You do not need a replacement battery for the SE30. The only thing that battery does is effectively keeps the speed of your mouse and the date and time. That's all it does. That's literally all it does. And you don't need it for anything else. So I guess we'll do the SIM sockets next. Which go this way. Yes. Yes. Yep, they go that way. SIM sockets. Memory sockets. Use my little blue tack here, blue tack trick again, to hold these in while I solder them down. Blue tack, flip it over, do the corners. Do a corner, put pressure, remelt solder, repeat. Cool. Now that those are in, we can take the blue tack back out and run the pins. My mouse is sensitive like me. Retro Tech or Die is here. Hi, how are you? Yeah, the caps on the SE analog board do leak onto the motherboard sometimes. Yes, that is a thing that happens. Is there a good place to grab 680XO CPUs? I would suggest UT Source. UTSOURCE.com. I've gotten 68040s. I've gotten a 68040 for my with the FPU for my Mystic from there. It was a little expensive. It was like $75, but you know, it was a guaranteed brand new chip, so I can't really complain. Came in the package. It was all nice and clean and pretty. Didn't have any discoloration or anything on it, so plugged it in and it worked. And then I ran speedometer, and speedometer was like, "Yep, you have a floating point unit," so it worked for me. Of course, if you're rebuilding your SE with this kit, and you have an existing SE board, you know, you would just, in theory, yank the chip out of your existing board. Of course, though, that requires you to again have an machine or something to be able to clear the pins and get it out. Solder pin, solder pin, solder pin, solder pin, solder pin. Lots of pins. $30 pins on each row times 4. Cool. That's one socket. Next socket! Next socket! Slow and steady wins the race. Pins, 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 pins. Dead SE30 and lots of the classics, yeah. Yeah, there's so many boards that are cat killed or battery bombed or whatever. And we're fixing so many of them now. I mean, the thing, it's gotten to the point now where Bruce was saying this on his stream. I think he was streaming last night. Or maybe it was earlier in the week, but he's getting fewer and fewer recap requests and more my computer doesn't work requests. Okay, those pins have been run. At a quick visual inspection, they look okay to me. Okay, what's next? Let's figure out some other sockets. Let's put this socket in. That is a 40-pin socket. Like that. $40-pin socket. And we also got a lot of other sockets to put in. And I have a huge selection of sockets. I get my sockets in bulk from peconnectors.com. Not sponsored, also not promoting, but I will say that in bulk, their sockets are cheaper than anywhere else on Earth that I've been able to find. So, yeah. Cheaper than eBay, cheaper than Janeco, cheaper than Mouser, cheaper than everything except maybe AliExpress. Super, super duper inexpensive. And that is 40, 38, 36, 34, 32. It's a 28-pin. Yeah, more color classic than the SEs, yeah. Because the SEs, we've gone through them all. So now there's what's left are the color classics, right? 28-pin, I need 3 of those. 3. I store these stacked together, which keeps most of the pins straight and from getting all bent up, and also allows them to be able to be stored in a much smaller space. This one thing holds hundreds of sockets. Hundreds. Plural. Hundreds. Okay. ROM high socket. ROM low socket. Swim socket. Flip that over, just hold it, bend over the pins to hold the socket in place. Oops, one fell out. And it's back in. All right, what else goes in here? We've got another 40-pin socket there that I missed. I fired and I missed. Yeah, I don't have any 40 pins in this one. They're all up here. Another 40 pin. 40 pin. The cool thing about doing this with sockets instead of soldering them directly in is it allows you to test multiple different chips. It also allows this board to be a good diagnostic board for testing other chips, because then they're all socketed. Just yank chips out, put new chips in. Cool. Any other 40 pins? No. And I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I need some 20s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like 20 pin here. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 sockets. Socket to me. Michael, you're funny. Yeah, I'm just reading. All you Bejos recapping these old Macs to get to the point where every remaining SE has been recapped. Then the CRTs start failing. Yes. I actually had a dream about that last night. Is the socket spacing enough to allow for ZIF sockets? No. It's pretty tight, specifically these areas here, these areas in here, they're all pretty tight together. ZIFs are pretty wide chonkers, so I don't think they'll really work in this case. However, the dual wipes are really easy to remove chips from, so I'm not too worried about that. These are good high quality dual wipe sockets, so they'll take multiple insertion cycles, so to speak, so I'm not worried about it. Now, the downside about having these all stacked is that in storage is that stacking them to put them away and then destacking them to take them out takes a lot of time, but it means you don't have to futz with broken bent pin problems. This has got to be utterly boring for you guys to watch, because it's just basically a whole bunch of stuff and sockets and boards, but whatever. It's Macintosh, so we have fun. Macintosh. Oh, that didn't work well. Now, this happens sometimes. You'll go to fold your pins over, and you'll actually push the pin out of the socket there. Easy fix. You just take a peek at that. Knock my fan over. Take a pair of pliers. Grab the pin. Grab the pin. Grab the pin. Grab the pin. And pull it back through. And it's back in place. Yep. Socket stuffing. Those are in place. Where else we got them? We got one here and one here. Two more right here. Okay. Yep, I do need one more 40 pin right here. Might as well do that. There we are. What's next? We got 18 pin ones somewhere. This is an 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's an 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And those are 16. So we need an 18 pin. 18 pin. 18 pins are up here. I think that's an 18. Yep. And it says I'm out of 16 pins. Oh no. End of the world. How did I run out of 16 pin sockets and not have... See? It's empty. No 16 pins. Those are dual wipes. Yes, these are dual wipe sockets. Got 18s and 14 and no 16s. Nice. I'm not sure how that happened. I'll bet you they're sitting in my cart at PE Connectors waiting for me to get enough to fill a $30 order. I'll just skip them for now. I just won't put those sockets in right now. That's fine. That one's in place. Yes, now we need to put this one in. Cool. I got a couple other large ones here. Those 18s are... Nope, those are 16 pins. 16, those are all 16s, and I don't have sockets for them. Yay! Boo! We do need the real-time clock, which is an 8-pin. Got one of those. Got one of those. Compared to the circle sockets, what do you all think? For most purposes, I like the dual wipes better. They're less expensive. They have more insertion cycles. They're easier to get chips in and out of without bending pins. Yeah. The machine pin ones are better for prototyping, in my opinion, because they will hold your chip in place and they will not let go. So you're not going to have as many how can I say? You're not going to have as many snafus worrying about whether your pins are issues or whatever. So I'll need a couple of those. Hey, I have those in stock. I might have a spare 19-pin connector as well. I've got that in stock. I might have those as well. We'll see. Let's just start soldering stuff. Let's stop yapping and start soldering. How's that sound? Machine sockets versus dual wipe. You know. It's really about the quality of the dual wipe sockets. A lot of folks are like, I don't like dual wipe because they're crap. Well, your dual wipes are crap is what it is. If you have good dual wipe sockets, it's not a problem. Let's get the fan a little closer. Get a little closer with fume exhaust fan. There we go. Then we rerun the pins with the hot iron to make sure they're all nice and connected doodled. Cool. All right. Next. Use the dual wipe with the high sides that will kind of lock the IC inside. Do you have a link to that, Thomas? Or a brand name or something we can look for those? That'd be cool. Solder pins, solder pins, solder pins until you're numb in the head. That doesn't take long. What doesn't take long? Lots of pins. Super duper pins. Again, thanks to everybody for hanging out with me tonight while I just do silly Macintosh stuff for Marcintosh. Hashtag Marcintosh 2022. If you're not subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button. That way you know when I'm doing fun, cool stuff like this, and you get to see me mumble and grumble at my own mistakes while I solder things. Smash the like button on this live stream because that helps the YouTube algorithm, system stuff or whatever it's called, recommend my content to people who watch other content similar to mine. And then more people will get to see. More people will get to come and hang out. And we'll have a grand old time soldering stuff. Yes, yes, yes. We've got 20 current viewers right now. That's not bad for one of my streams. Usually I average 20 to 25 in that range for viewership, so we're doing pretty good. Half those watching are probably bots, but that's okay. View hours are view hours. For those of you who are not bots, say hey in the chat. Let me know you're here. Oi! I'm a bot. Bought and paid for. Numb in the head. I am not a bot. Yes, thank you. If you're wanting to know ways that you can help support my channel, one is, again, hit like on the stream. That helps. You can do super chats and stuff like that. You can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/Joe's Computer Museum. You can also go to jcm-1.com and order cool stuff like BlueSCSIs and universal Apple II keyboard encoders and universal Apple III RGB converters and all different kinds of cool stuff. T-shirts and stickers and mugs and stuff. Merchandise. And the funds from all of that, the proceeds, help go to keeping me able to keep doing this. Without your support, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing right now. I wouldn't have this cool soldering iron or this cool microscope over here. I just wouldn't have had the funding to justify making the purchase of those items. And instead of doing this cool stuff, I'd be upstairs eating potato chips, getting fat, watching science fiction. Instead, I'm down here and I'm getting stuff done, which is really cool. So again, I thank all of you for helping me do that. Merchandise, yes. Is there a good source for Apple-specific ICs? Well, it depends on what they are. Some spare Apple ICs you can get on UTSource, UTSOURCE.com. There are some vendors out there that just happen to have extra egret chips and sound chips and stuff, which is cool. Or CPUs and whatever. Some of the chips are unobtainium, though. Some of the very specific Apple ICs, some of the ABB controller chips are nearly impossible to find. I can tell you that a lot of the keyboard encoders for the Apple IIs are nearly impossible to find. Hence the reason why I've reverse engineered and created my own version of those keyboard encoders, because you can't find them. Like, you want to find a keyboard encoder for an Apple III, the only place you're going to find a keyboard encoder for an Apple III is another Apple III. And why would you take apart a working Apple III to fix a non-working Apple III? You're just moving the problem around. So, yeah. Certain generic chips are really easy to find because they were generic and used in everything. So you just go search for the part number. You'll find it just about anywhere. The CPUs are a little bit harder to find because they were used most only in weird, like, Unix workstations and the Macs. But they're still, just bare CPUs are still locatable. Other things are just not. The BBU chip here, I don't know why it's called a BBU, but it's named after the designers of the chip or something. But the BBU chip here is very specialized, and you can't find them. The 26Ls are not... yeah, the serial drivers. It's named after a BBW. Thank you. Don't you mean BMW? Yeah, the VLSI chips are hard to find. Yeah, a lot of them are just hard to find. Does anybody have a compiled list of... No, you meant BBW. Okay, I'll take it. Buffalo Wild Wing. I don't know what you're talking about. Whatever. Does anyone have a compiled list of proprietary Apple chips that are being replicated? Oh, I don't. I know I've replicated a couple of them, but there are some folks on the actual SE Reloaded project and the SE30 Reloaded project that are recreating the BBU, for example. The BBU basically is half of an original Mac, and it's logic chips in a single VLSI chip, basically. It's kind of like the Mega 2 is an Apple II in a single chip. So recreating that, in theory, is recreatable from knowing simply the signals that are documented that come out of the chip using known schematics. Because then you can just refer to the original Mac and be like, well, this signal is derived from this, and then you can create, replacement logic for it. But the other thing you can do is you can strip the cap off the chip and take high-res dye photos and then try to reverse engineer it that way, which, of course, takes for freaking ever. But it is a doable thing, and many chips have been reverse engineered that way. I reverse engineered the keyboard controller for the Apple II effectively from the datasheet. The datasheet for the AY5 3600 Pro keyboard controller is very well written. It tells you all of the timings, parameters, and everything. So you can just, it tells you the exact function of how the chip works. So all you have to do is just emulate it. And if you emulate it close enough, it just works. My encoder's timing is not quite exactly correct, but we're talking about a keyboard scanner here. It's not a microcontroller or anything, so it's not that. It's just not that complicated. It's just it is a repeating state machine is all it does. So it's just not that complicated of a chip. But of course, a proprietary chip like the BBU, again, is a proprietary chip. There's not going to be any public documentation on its functionality written out. I doubt there was any internal documentation on its functionality written out in any sort of usable manner. It was probably designed with RubyLith on big sheets of vellum and just done. One logic gate at a time. I don't know. Then again, I've been known to talk out my rear end, so I could be making crap up. I don't know. I'm just going off experience. Yeah, Furtek has been doing that for Neo Geo and other chips lately, yes. Key dongles get decapped for backup. Yep. Yepper doodles. And it really depends, too, on the complexity of the circuit, what it's going to take to actually recreate them. If you get someone like Ken Sharif, I'm not sure how he pronounces it. He works a lot with Curious Mark. He is really good at just looking at a die, looking at a silicon die and being like, well, that's a gate and that's this, that's an OR and this is an and these connect together to do this. That's a barrel shifter. That's a shift register. He can just stare at a die and just reverse engineer the thing. And in theory, if you could get him or someone with talents very similar to his to do that for you, then you'd have your problem solved. But the flip side of that is, who's going to do it, right? How can I put it? It's got to be, to some extent, it's got to be a labor of love. This isn't some sort of industrial reverse engineering project, right? It's a labor of love done for the community. So if you find somebody like that, they've got to already be invested in what to do it themselves. It's not like you're going to farm that out and be like, hey, do you want to do this for me? Because then they're going to want money for it, right? Unless they happen to already be a super big fan and just didn't know that was a thing that people wanted to do, right? So it's tricky. It is tricky. Okay, do I have any other sockets? Yeah, I got one rattling in there somewhere. Yep, down here. Pins, 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 pins. And solder in place. Cool. See you, Glitcher Mario. Thank you. What camera is best for a high-res capture like that? You want a really good, basically you want a really good DSLR camera with a hooked up to a microscope of some description, kind of like my Amtech microscope here. But even the Amtech, you need even some. The Amtech here that I have can't do die shots. It's just, it doesn't have enough magnification on it. You almost need like a Tagano professional microscope or something like that that just can get way in. If you've watched Dave Jones' EEV blog, he uses his Tagano and he actually can effectively get die shots with that silly thing. But then again, it's like a $50,000 scope. So yeah, those are all on there and they all look good. So those sockets is in place. Oh, I don't know what else what the heck else can I put in here. I don't have much else that I can actually put on this board right now because I don't have the pieces and parts. Yeah, I basically need to go find the bill of materials for this and just order the whole set of parts for it, minus like some of the chips, which I can scavenge from the other board. A lot of these, like these capacitors, are just they're axial 100 nano decoupling caps. No big deal. Let's see if this works well in that. Yeah, that's perfect. That is exactly perfect. So that goes there. This thing, where is that? I have my old floppy EMU, not floppy EMU, my old applesauce that has a 19-pin connector in it that I can scavenge for that. I'm just looking for it. It's in one of these piles somewhere. Here, we'll switch to face cam while you watch me rummage around in my mess. So where is that? It's back here somewhere. Up here in the Apple II spare parts bin. Yes. Yeah. There we go. Got a 19-pin connector on that I can borrow. Mm-hmm. Cool. Sit back in the chair. Bench cam. Cool. So let's get the external SCSI connector in. That is all perfectly in place. Get that heating up again, because I'll need to desolder this 19 pin off my old applesauce. This will be the third applesauce board I've had. Because I got the very, very, very first one they made, and then I got the updated one, which is this one. And then they did another hardware update relatively recently to support PC style 34-pin floppy drives, so I got that. You can basically image just about anything out there. If you haven't checked out applesauce, but you're into preserving old discs, yeah, that's a thing you're going to want to look into. Those things are awesome. Okay, so let's get this out of here. Now, this one is screwed into place, but whatever. Not worried about that. We can just do the same thing again. Moo! Alright, again, I'm going to check this under the scope real quick and just see how well the clearing job went. Really well. Okay. So we take these little screws out of here. Hopefully, they will line up on this other board, the through hose on this board, and then it will just work. We will see. Right. A little tricky. Are they riveted through? Nope. Have they flow soldered through? Nope. Okay. Just use a little more force. Where is my tool? All right, let's check it out. Let's go. I understand, Herb. That makes sense. Eric is here. Hi, Eric. How you doing? You missed out. I built some BlueSCSIs earlier. Now we're trying to put together an SE30 or an SE Reloaded board. This didn't get quite cleared as well as I'd like it to. So let's go back to Scope Cam. I'll show you. Yeah, some of these pins didn't clear very well. Basically, I'm just using the wick to clear any residual solder that's still down in the hole there. Just to get the solder that's still left down to a certain critical mass so that the joints break really easily. Basically. Oh, where's the stuff? Here it is. Cool. Thanks, Ken, for reaching out to him about him or her, whoever that is, for Tack about that. All right, let's see if it comes out a little more easily now. There we go. Like champ. Cool. Let's see. How well does this line up? Pretty gosh darn well. That is a scavenger win right there. I'll take it. I'll take it. I will take it. Oops. Yeah, that's not the way that goes. I don't think it really matters which way it goes, but whatever. I know you guys can't see this. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get it lined up so I can see it so I can actually do the thing. There we go. Pins are lined up pretty well. It's lined up with the other socket pretty well. There we go. Solder that in place. Cool. Now let's get this actually soldered in here. Solder, solder, solder. There we are. Awesome! What is birdseed? Is the birdseed done on this one? This is an SE board. The SE doesn't have birdseed. Unless you consider all the through-hole stuff on the top side. Yes, this doesn't have any SMD parts on it at all. It's all through-hole. All through-hole components, all top side. Cool. What else can we do? We can put that on. Which I just happen to have a whole bunch of these as well. Mm-hmm. $50-pin SCSI connector doodles. Which, if it weren't for the BlueSCSI project, I wouldn't have any in stock. But I've got like 1 billion of them sitting over here, so yeah. Ow, hot. Professor Lava, hot. Okay, is that aligned correctly? Is it good? Yep, it's good. Yep. Mm-hmm. Sorry, smacked the camera there. Apologize. Just soldered the BlueSCSI right to the board. Yeah. You could. You absolutely could. That'd be an interesting project. Little adapter through-hole thingamabobber that would allow you to do that. Flip it over this way, makes it easier to do this side. Yeah, just adding, yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah, that would have been really neat. Hi, Rudy. How many layers is the SE digital board? It is 4. The top layer and bottom layer are signal layers with some limited ground and power planes. And the inner layers are your actual ground and power planes. Cool. So that's in there. Now let's do this upper drive, lower drive stuff. Those are 20-pin sockets. Looking, stand by. I know I have these. Aha. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, wouldn't you know it? I just try to stock a whole bunch of things. Floppy connector. What is Joe working on now? Rudy, I am putting together the SE Macintosh SE Reloaded board. It is a reverse engineered and relaid out with some slight improvements version of the original Macintosh SE board. The idea here is that you can use it to replace your dead SE by scavenging the parts off your SE and putting it on your SE30 or your SE Reloaded board. Is that in there all the way? Just started soldering it before checking to see if they were all in there. Hot. You guys see me jump out of my skin there for a second? Yeah, it's good enough. Good enough. Yeah. And so I'm building this just for fun because I have the board and it's taking up space and I need that space to be reclaimed for other things, like the ability to walk across my shop. Ask Ron, he was here, he knows. Kai's board, yes it is. Need 220 ohm resistors, better buy 10,000. Oh yeah, I have spools and spools and spools. I'm not worried about that. Not worried about that at all. Yep, I probably have most of these parts in my bins. But yeah, I'm probably just going to go order spools and like store them somewhere in the house. Because, yeah. Yep. For the BlueSCSI project, I have a spool of 5,000 of them down there. I'm like, yep, I'll go through them eventually. For those who want the LEDs with their kit. I don't remember what values I got. 330s, 220s. They might be 220s. But whatever. At this point, that's basically what I do. Whenever I get some new project and I need an absolute crap ton of resistors, I just buy a 5,000 count spool. I mean, at that point, I mean, if you're doing enough work where you need, you know, 500-600 resistors, it just makes sense to buy a spool because then they're so much cheaper in bulk. I mean, they get to sub 1 cent values. Yeah, so I also need another socket right here I didn't see. Another 8-pin sockets. Ron puts stickers on his stuff. Yeah. Uh-huh. And then on the way? Yep, looks like it. Ah! It folded over underneath the socket. Look at that. Look at that. Glad I noticed that before I soldered it in place. That would have made me grumpy. Then again, they cost 2 cents a piece, so I'm not really worried about the cost of these sockets. Again, I get my sockets in bulk for cheap from peconnectors.com. Even with their shipping, which is exorbitantly expensive compared to most sites, their cost of their sockets is so insanely affordable. Sub 10 cents in most cases per socket when you buy them in bulk, that it makes sense to order sockets from them. They also have a lot of other cool, hard to find stuff, like the RAM sockets, for example. For this board specifically, they're one of the few companies out there that stock them. The weird, 45-degree angle sockets. And even better, their sockets have the metal clips on them instead of the plastic clips. These things right here. Right there. Yes, Eric was on our Retro Repair Roundup, and we talked about BlueSCSI for almost 2 hours. It was super fun. If you didn't catch it, go back and catch that. Just go to YouTube and look for Retro Repair Roundup. And you get to watch me and Rudy and Javier and Ron and, of course, our special guest, Eric, goof off and talk about nerdy fixing of things. It was super fun last night. Again, thank you again, Eric, for being our guest last night. That was awesome. Okay, what else are we doing here? Any other sockets that I have that I can put on here? I don't think so. I do not believe so. Okay. I'm just looking at stuff. Just hang out with me for a minute. Okay. Neat. We got pretty far with that tonight. Okay. What are we doing next? What do we want to do next? We have a whole bunch of 33 microfarad 16 volt electrolytics we can put in. Ah, there's another socket I missed. Jiminy friggin' Christmas. Everywhere are these tiny little sockets. Everywhere. If you've yelled at me in the chat and I've missed it, I apologize. I'm just kind of in my zone and not really looking at the chat too much. Or did I actually solder that one in? Yes, I did. Okay. Let's see. Do we have these 33 UF? Those are 4.7s. These are what are you? Can't read them. Those are 220 axials, so those aren't what we need. .22 axials, not the right type. Those are the right value, but not axial. I mean, I personally don't care, because I have a way of putting them in where they stay in place and they're not a problem. But let me double check my other bin just to make sure I don't have them. Finding the axials is very difficult these days, to be honest. Yes, I do not have the axials. Well, when I do a parts run, I'll see if I can get axials. If I can, I can. Red board with BlueSCSI. Definitely need a clear case, yes. Are those 4 slots above that socket you did also sockets? Those 4 slots above the where, what? These here? Right there, those are sockets. Yes, those are 18-pin sockets, and I don't have any 8-pin. They're 16s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, these are 16-pin sockets. I don't have any 16-pin sockets in stock. I'm all out. I usually have somewhere floating around 100 of them in my bin, and I don't have any. Go figure that. Recapamac.au shows the part. Yes, thank you. Recapamac.au, of course, is Bruce Rain's website. He has the world's best and most extensive list of recapping guides for Macintosh, logic, and analog boards in the world. #1 best. I will give you the URL. So if you need to recap your Mac and you need to know the parts of where everything is, go to that website right there. Go there and get the stuff, because his list is awesome. Does anybody happen to know where the parts list is for this, because some of these values are obvious. They're labeled right there on the board, but a lot of them are also not labeled on the board. So I don't know what they are all supposed to be. So I need to get the parts list. So I'm going to do SE Reloaded parts list. We'll use the Googles and see what the Google says. Here is Kai's website. For that, Macintosh SE Reloaded, version 1.5, parts list, parts list. Thank you, Adam McG. Look at that Facebook ID list of thing link. Yes. Let me go over to this other chat window where I can actually click on it and open it. Cool. Perfect. Yes. Magical awesome sauce. Well, I can use that to buy the parts that I need. Yep. To some extent. Cool. Awesome sauce. How much farther can we go in getting this working tonight? Where's my battery bond board? It's over here somewhere. So there's the battery bond board that I'm going to use to source my chips and things from. I can probably source the filters from all of those things that are kind of hard to get. Probably all these caps as well, if I really wanted to. These caps don't fail that often. I'll have to. These chips have to be scavenged if I can get them out of this board. The sound chip as well. Yep. The real-time clock chip. A lot of these have to be scavenged. The PAL definitely has to be. .68-pin socket using pin strip for this guy here. Yep. Anyway, did you solder on the rear connectors yet? A couple of them. I had a couple of rear connectors that I was able to get to solder on the board. I need to get this metal frame off here and put that on there. That's going to be I don't even know how the hell I'm going to do that. That's just one gigantic freaking heat sink. Look at how bad that board is. Look at that. Look at that. The 68-pin dip is extinct. Yeah. Man. This poor board. The upside is I can scavenge most of the parts, so it's not a big deal. Not a big deal. I have a new one of those land somewhere. Of course, I have the IWM here. This is the 3440062. Is that the IWM? Control F IWM. Floppy. He doesn't have the IWM listed on here. Yeah, the SWIM 0062A. Aha, this does have the SWIM in it. This does have the better chip. Good. So I do have a SWIM. 68K processor, 68 pins. Yeah. So Jameco has those. Does PE connectors have it? Let's look. Let's take a look, everybody. We're going to go socket hunting. Sockets on PE connectors. I don't know why I can't find it, because I go to their website and buy crap all the time. IC sockets. Dip stamped. Click button. They have a 64-pin, a 64-pin socket. How many pins is it? Let's count it. Let us count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. It's 64 pins, not 68 pins. And would you look at that? A 64-pin shrink pin socket is there. But that is not going to help us, because this isn't a shrink pin socket. This is a standard socket. Yes, it's DIP 64. But that's fine. We can, I have pin strips we can use for that. That's not a problem. But it says Jameco has them. So let's do somebody who's yelling at me. Somebody's yelling at me. Oh no, it's Ron. Ron is yelling at me. And the answer to his question is yes. Sorry about that. I was just talking to Ron on the side here. We're talking about something unrelated. Okay. Jameco has 68HC000s, and so I could even get a new chip from Jameco? Really? 68HC000. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Cool. That's nifty. Watch the IC pitch. Yeah, I see that. Something came up here outside of the stream that I need to take care of. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap the stream up for tonight. Sorry to do that so abruptly. It involves the the Mac SE giveaway. And I need to answer some questions for Ron and get that taken care of so that we can get that done by the end of Macintosh. So I am going to go ahead and call it a night, but that's okay. We got a lot of cool, awesome Macintosh Mac content done for you all. So again, thanks for everybody for stopping by tonight. I do appreciate that. Remember, hit subscribe so you know when I'm doing this. Hit the silly bell icon thing if that's still a thing. Hit the like button so YouTube knows, again, that, hey, you like my content, and it'll show my content to other people who like similar content. If you want to support the channel, you can go to patreon.com/Joe's Computer Museum without an apostrophe in it. You can also go to jcm-1.com and get stuff on there from me and my store to help support the channel. Again, thank you all for stopping by, and I appreciate every single one of you. Good night, folks.